what are the forces that shape male preferences and female preferences in their partners? Like, what is the evolutionary force that shapes it? What does it look like?
Okay, so here we have to talk about some things that are common to both sexes and some things that are sex differentiated. So first, the common ones. So in long-term mating, you want things like, is this person going to be a good partner? Or are they going to be a good parent? So those are two big ones. And so a lot of characteristics that both sexes want. They want a mate who's kind, who's intelligent, who's empathic, who's dependable, who will be with them through thick and thin, through richer for poorer, in sickness and in health and all of that. You want someone who's,
Committed to you is loyal and long term in that way.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. So those are things both sexes want. Now, sex differentiated ones. So men have a very profound adaptive challenge. When I say men, our ancestral men had a profound adaptive challenge, and that was identifying fertile women. Now, and the reason that I say that is because we can draw this contrast with chimpanzees, where the male chimps don't have to figure out if the female's fertile. She tells them that bright red genital swelling with the estrus phase, and she emits scents, olfactory cues that the males go wild over. But in humans, ovulation is concealed or relatively concealed. So we don't know. You can't walk down the street and say, this woman's ovulating, this woman's not. We don't know. And so which women are fertile? Well, the only thing that our ancestral males, our fathers, our ancestral fathers and their fathers and their fathers, the only thing they had available were observable cues that were statistically correlated with this quality called fertility that can't be observed directly. And so these are things like they basically boil down to cues to youth and cues to health. So clear skin, clear eyes, lustrous hair, absence of sores and lesions, symmetrical features, a lively, sprightly gait as the person walks. I mean, there are these cues that are not invariably correlated. They're correlated, but not at a perfect correlation. And so the theory, and this actually provides a very powerful theory of attractiveness, of female attractiveness, is those cues that have been statistically correlated with fertility, such as those that I just mentioned, should have evolved to be part of our universal standards of attractiveness. So whether we go to India or Nigeria or Venezuela or China, these should be the same cues.
Symmetry, clear skin, clear eyes, proper gait, this kind of stuff.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and hair can be lustrous hair.
Very interesting. Okay.
Yeah, and so and other things like a low waist to hip ratio, which is we know is, so if you look at the circumference of a woman's waist compared to the circumference of her hips, a low waist to hip ratio is linked with high fertility. So, and is also part of our standards of attractiveness. So it offers
So that means basically a shape where it's kind of like the hourglass shape. Is that?
Yes.
Right.
Yeah. Like the hour. Yeah. So where the waist is smaller than the hips.
Okay.
Absolutely.
And that's more attractive.
That's absolutely, yeah. That's more attractive. Yeah, my colleague Devendra Singh actually was the first one who discovered that, and it's been shown to be cross-culturally consistent as well.
How would somebody discover that? Like, what kind of study gets you in there?
Well, so he knew, he discovered that because he used to study obesity and fat deposition, and so he knew a tremendous amount about the causes of infertility associated with fat distribution. And so he, and it was actually, he was reading a paper of mine, and he thought, that David, he is so stupid. He missed the most important cue in the world, waist to hip ratio. And so he started doing research on waist hip ratio. And so he started out very primitively in research design. So he simply had drawn figures that varied in their waist to hip ratio and also varied in their heaviness, their overall weight. And what he found is that indeed the most attractive of these figures was the waist hip ratio of about 0.7. So where the waist is roughly 7/10 the circumference of the hips. And then over time, develop more sophisticated imagery, so you can take photographs and you can Photoshop them and make them so that it's exactly the same woman, but varies in her waist hip ratio, and then you do it across cultures, and you can do also videotapes. So over time, the methodologies got more and more sophisticated, but the finding remained the same.
Does the finding mean, and sorry if it's a little crass, but the fatter you are, the less attractive you are? Is that the finding?
No. So it's the finding is that the lower your waist hip ratio, the lower a woman's waist hip ratio, the more attractive she is perceived by men.
So the finding is not that it's about how fat someone is, you were saying.
No, because it turns out that, let's say when a woman gains weight, the fat deposition is equally distributed, so it doesn't actually necessarily change the waist hip ratio. And Dr. Singh had also a theory of why some women develop these eating disorders is because they look in the mirror and they don't like what they see, and they think the problem is that they're overweight. And so they start losing weight, but when they lose weight proportionally, and it doesn't alter their waist hip ratio. And so they look again and say, oh, I'm still unhappy with my weight. I got to diet even more. And so ultimately that can cause eating disorders. And it's not how fat she is, it's that her waist hip ratio is not proportionate. It's not the ideal state.
And the waist to hip ratio then I'm assuming is a genetic thing. Then it's just either you have it or you don't.
Well, it's caused by several things. So one is certain endocrinological problems. So if the woman's hormonal balance, say between estrogen and testosterone, is off, then that will produce a higher waist hip ratio. It's also affected by giving birth. So if a woman gives birth, then often her waist hip ratio doesn't return to its former thing. And so the more children a woman has, the higher her waist hip ratio. And so it also is a low waist hip ratio is a cue that the woman has never had kids before.
Interesting.
And that obviously the more kids a woman has, the older she is on average. And so her fertility is going to go down. So there's several things that can change waist hip ratio, but those are a couple of them.
So not only is it genes, but it's also endocrinology. It's also some degree of fat deposition and so on. And that creates these ideas of fuller lips or luscious hair, or I'm assuming big bosom is going to be part of it too.
Well, yeah, more in some cultures than others, but not necessarily big, but the shape turns out to be very important. Yeah. So just like the ones you mentioned, so estrogen production, which is important for female fertility, is a key cause of those things. So the female needs estrogen to produce the full lips, for example, and also the lustrous hair and the feminine facial features. But breast shape turns out to be probably more important than sheer size per se, because we know that the breast shape changes with increasing age. So women with large breasts, as she ages, they're going to become droopy.
Right.
And so those are typically regarded as less attractive than if they're, perky.
So could we say that this is what the objective measure of beauty has come out to be from the science? Is that a fair characterization that okay, men prefer beauty and beauty is described in these many indexes, and when we find out, when we start asking men through various studies, how much of a waist to hip ratio do you prefer, or what kind of hair do you prefer, we arrive at a mathematical objectivity in beauty? Or is that not a fair thing to say?
Yeah, something approximating that,
Right.
So yes, I would say one way to summarize that is that beauty is not in the eyes of the beholder. Beauty is in the adaptations of the beholder.
Huh.
In this case, the male beholder.
Right.